everyone, this is Levi Hyacinth Ababon, the reporter of Fair Use.
And this is Christina Banit, also reporting Fair Use. What is fair use? According to www.copyright.gov, fair use is a legal doctrine that promotes freedom of expression by permitting the unlicensed use of copyright-protected work in certain circumstances. There is another definition for what is really a fair use. According to Stanford University Libraries, in its most general sense, a fair use is any copying or copyrighted materials done for a such limited and transformative purpose, such as to comment upon, criticize, or parody a copyrighted work. Such uses can be done without permission from the copyright owner. In other words, fair use is a defense against a claim of copyright infringement. If your use qualifies as a fair use, then it would not be considered as infringement.
So what is a transformative use? If this definition seems ambiguous or vague, be aware that $1 million in illegal fees have been spent attempting to define what qualifies as a fair use. There are no hard and fast rules, only general guidelines and varied court decisions, because the judge and lawmaker who created the fair use exception did not want to limit its definition. Like free speech, they wanted it to have an expansive meaning that could be open to interpretation.
Most fair use analysis falls into two categories. 1. Commentary and criticism, or the 2. The parody.
Commentary and criticism. If you are commenting upon or critiquing a copyrighted work, for instance, writing a book review, fair use principles allow you to reproduce some of the work to achieve your purposes. Some examples of commentary and criticism include quoting a few lines from a Bob Dylan song in a music review, summarizing a quoting from a medical article on prostate cancer in a news report, copying a few paragraphs from a news article for use by a teacher or a student in a lesson, or copying a portion of a Sports Illustrated magazine article for use in a related court case.
Number 2. Parody. A parody is a work that ridicules another, usually well-known work, by imitating it in a comic way. Judges understand that by its nature. Parody demands some taking from the other original work being parodied. Unlike other forms of fair use, a fairly extensive use to the original work is permitted in a parody in order to conjure up the original. In Section 107, the Copyright Act provides the statutory framework for determining whether something is a fair use and identifies certain types of uses, such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research as examples of activities that may qualify as fair use. Section 107 also calls for consideration of the following 4 factors in evaluating a question of fair use.
Purpose and character of the use, including whether the use is of a commercial nature or is for non-profit educational purposes. Court look at how the party claiming fair use is using the copyrighted work and are more likely to find that non-profit educational and non-commercial uses are fair. This does not mean, however, that all non-profit education and non-commercial uses are fair. All commercial uses are not fair. Instead, courts will balance the purpose and character of the use against the other factors below. Additionally, transformative uses are more likely to be considered fair. Transformative uses are those that add something new with a further purpose or different character and do not substitute for the original use of the work. Nature of the copyrighted work. This factor analyzes the degree to which the work that was used relates to copyright purpose of encouraging creative expression. Those using a more creative or imaginative work such as a novel, movie, or a song is less likely to support a claim of fair use than using a factual work, such as a technical article or news item. In addition, use of the unpublished work is less likely to be considered fair.
Amount and substantiality of the portion used in relation to the copyrighted work as a whole. Under this factor, courts look at both the quantity and the quality of the copyrighted materials that was used. If the use includes a large portion of the copyrighted work, fair use is less likely to be found. And if the use employs only a small amount of copyrighted material, fair use is more likely. That said, some courts have found use of an entire work to be fair under certain circumstances. And in other contexts, using even a small amount of a copyrighted work was determined not to be fair because the selection was an important part of the heart of the work. The last factor in evaluating a question of a fair use include the effect of the use upon the potential market for or value of the copyrighted work. Here, courts review whether and to what extent the unlicensed use harms the existing or future market for the copyright owner's original work. In assessing this factor, courts consider whether the use is hurting the current market for the original work, for example, by displacing sales of the original, and or whether the use could cause substantial harm if it were to become widespread. In addition to the four factors mentioned earlier, other factors may also be considered by a court in weighing a fair use question, depending upon the circumstances. Courts evaluate fair use claims on a case-by-case basis, and the outcome of any given case depends on a fact-specific inquiry. This means that there is no formula to ensure that a predetermined percentage or amount of a work or specific number of words, lines, pages, copies may be used without permission. The ultimate guide to copyright, fair use, and Creative Commons for educators. Here are some copyright rules to remember. Number 1. Just because you found it online doesn't mean it's free to use, even if you're a teacher or a student. Number 2. There are a lot of resources you can use freely, including work that has a Creative Commons license or is in the public domain. Number 3. You have a right as a creator to have your work protected from copying, and you can also give your own content a Creative Commons license. Number 4, if in doubt about using content, ask the creator for permission, find a free alternative, purchase an alternative, or make your own material. And lastly, number 5, instead of looking for loopholes, consider whether you're being the most responsible and ethical digital citizen you can be. So far, so good. That would be all about the fair use. Thank you.